If you're someone like me who used to believe he was genetically predisposed to not having a single grain of flexibility, even though you spent weeks, months, maybe even years stretching almost every muscle in your body with just seeing fractional results, which honestly felt more like flexibility prison to me, then I'm here to say it's not you, because you don't have a flexibility problem. You have a strength problem, and more precisely, a strength at length problem, which is commonly referred to as your mobility. And the good part is that when you apply basic strength principles to your flexibility, you can get serious results in just a couple of minutes per week. And to make it even better, once you have built the flexibility you want, you can implement it in your strength goals, in your sports, or in your day-to-day living, and maintaining it will cost you almost zero energy and effort. Now, I know this might sound a little bit ludicrous to you, but I'm going to reveal how this approach works and how to implement it. And I'm going to give you a clear example with a first-hand experience so you can perform it afterwards as well and really see how potent this actually is, especially compared to other flexibility or stretching protocols you find elsewhere. Now, if you would ask somebody how they feel after they stretch for 1, 2, 3 minutes, tedious minutes if you ask me, they often will tell you that afterwards they feel great, they feel good. And you also hear that they feel like they've gotten a little bit of extra range of motion. Yet, if you would circle back to them in a couple of weeks' time and ask them if they actually made progress on gaining more usable flexibility, you'll hear it's close to none. And I know you have thought the same thing I thought in all of my pursuits of gaining more flexibility. Why is it that every time I stretch, I end up with the same range of motion I had prior in the last week, in the previous 2 weeks, in the month before? Why is that? Why don't I see any changes? Well, that is because stretching isn't really a tissue remodeling mechanism. It is a sensory mechanism with one important job: to tell your brain if our limbs and joints are in a safe or in a unsafe position. Because what do you think is more harmful? Having infinite flexibility in your joints without proper control, or having somewhat restricted or limited amounts of flexibility in your joints with proper control? The answer is the latter. Because if the brain and the nervous system doesn't have the option to activate your tissues near end ranges, there is a serious possibility for you to harm the structure of your joint and its connective tissue, which in the worst case of all would mean the loss of movement. And the loss of movement back in the days where we were hunters and gatherers would be one of the biggest threats to our survival. Think about it. If we would face the famous saber-toothed tiger back when we were hunters and gatherers, and we would have infinite amount of flexibility, how would we supposed to conquer that situation and potentially destroy our opponent? We wouldn't, because we would constantly move into ranges of motion that harm the structure of our joints, that endanger our tissues, and therefore losing the movement capabilities that could either bring our opponent down or have us stepping away from the situation. So given the option, the brain and body will always prioritize having control over not having control. And what you might not know yet is the more you open up a joint, the more stretch you're creating on the muscles and its connective tissue, just like with a rubber band. But the more stretch you create, the more tension will also be present on your tissues. And the more tension is present, the harder it will be for you to contract and control near the end ranges. But when you're decreasing the stretch on the rubber band or your tissues, you're alleviating tension, which brings back the ability to contract and control your tissue. Now, if flexibility is more of a sensing mechanism, then how are we supposed to build usable, safe flexibility without ever stretching? Well, you do this by applying the tissue remodeling mechanism to it, aka building strength. Just like you're trying to increase or densify your muscles by training near maximum capacity, here we're trying to increase your ability of control by targeting and stimulating your tissues near end range of motion. And by doing so, we're not really challenging this very evolved and intelligent protective mechanism, but we're rather aligning with it so that we gain usable functional movement through specific ranges of our joint, which makes us far more resilient and and injury proof for the various scenarios we might end up being in on day-to-day activities or sports or whatever physical pursuits we have. And the perspective that really flipped something for me in this case was by approaching flexibility as if I was a bodybuilder. But in this case, I'm not sculpting my muscles, but rather my connective tissue, so that when I'm moving in and out of different ranges of motion, my brain feels safe and it will allow me to do so. And yes, similar to muscle growth, it takes some time before your body will allow you to access ranges of motion that it feels safe and comfortable in, that you can use. However, similar to building muscle, once you've built it, it is very likely to stay with you in a very high functional regard with little waste for the decades to come. Which means that with a very targeted and effective practice, you can get lasting results and then leave it as is, simply maintaining it by performing or apply it to all the functional movements you would like to do in your daily life, sports, other practices. Now, to have you understand how powerful strength training, true strength training, near end ranges is, I'm going to walk you through a live demonstration that you can immediately try out for yourself afterwards, just to see the sheer potency of this strategy. And we're going to do this with a middle split. Now, my personal goal and recommendation is to not strive for a full middle split unless you really want to, since it doesn't really serve any functionality in daily life, in sports, or most other practices beyond a certain point. That being said, I think increasing your stance till 6, maybe 7 steps can be a great tool for, one, experiencing less restrictions in your hips, and also 2, feeling more secure in your overall movement capabilities. Now, by no means am I near a middle split, but as you can see in this photo, I've managed to drastically increase this range of motion in just a very few potent minutes per week. Now, before showing you the full demo, if you have some joints that might feel some restrictions or you lack some flexibility that you want to improve, I created a quick assessment to help you find out whether certain positions should require a bit more of your attention than others. All to help you create more focus and have more clarity if you're pursuing more flexibility or more functional movement through the ranges of motions of your joint without pain. You can download it free below. So first, we want to understand what it is that we're after in order to stimulate our end range properly. So when you increase your stance by taking steps out, eventually you hit a point where your adductors, the inner parts of your legs, start to tingle. This is good, since this is that sensation that the brain is after, and then it steps in where it tells us, okay, we're now near the end range of our safe and functional range. Now, rather than relaxing here or backing a bit off, what we want to do is the opposite. We want to contract with that sensation as hard as you can. This might feel uncomfortable at the beginning, but the more contraction you can generate, the more you're sending that signal to the brain that you own that range and that we're here to strengthen this region. And that is why it's so important. Before you do though, make sure to take a quick snapshot of where you are. So you go into end range, feel the sensations, get out, and one after the demo. And in a couple weeks time, see how much progress you made by applying this mechanism. Okay, so after you took your snapshot and you're now back into that middle split position, now you want to imagine pushing that inner part of your feet towards each other as if you're getting back into a neutral standing position. Now you should be pushing really hard for just a couple of seconds. Then you take a breath and then you repeat it for around 6 to 10 repetitions, or when you feel like you have no motivation or no desire to proceed further. And when you do this right, you will be amazed at how much safe and usable range your body can gain that will sit in the back of your pocket and you can use whenever you want. But again, the sole objective is to not merely increase range. It's to really accumulate maximum intensity, maximum contractions near the end range over a period of time. Because that is really how we're strengthening the range of motion and we're telling the brain and the nervous system it's safe. Now, if you find it difficult or a bit challenging to get in and out of the position, what you can always do is put your hands on the support, and then when you don't feel safe anymore or you want to get out, you can use the hands on that support to guide you out in a safe manner. Now, if you find it a bit hard to contract the inner part of the feet and your legs, then what might help is that you place 2 objects in between the legs when you're in your end range of motion that you can push in against so that you have a good reference point. As long as it doesn't feel like another thing you have to do, but you can do quickly and effectively. Now, personally, I found that doing this routine for 1 to 2 sets sets of 6 to 10 repetitions for 2 times per week is the most effective. But you can experiment with this for yourself. If you want to do 1 set of 10 repetitions, that's totally fine. If you want to do 2 sets of 6 repetitions 2 times per week, that's also totally fine. As long as you're maximally contracting near that end range, you're creating the right environment for the body and brain to grow. Now, hopefully this video gave you some insights on how to approach your flexibility in order to see actual progress and tangible lasting flexibility gains that you can apply in whatever physical pursuit you might have. So let me know how it went, if you felt any type of progress, and comment what other potential positions for mobility or flexibility gains you would love to see. And for the rest, we'll speak soon.